Hello, my dear friends. Welcome back to my channel. So I'm posting this for a kind of midday treat or bonus on a Thursday, which is our fifth day of coffee week. I don't know why the numbers are really bothering me, but they just are. So fifth day, and I wanted to talk to you about coffee pots. So I care very deeply about coffee. But caveat, I live by myself. I have for a very long time, and it just doesn't make sense for me to have a coffee pot that like gives me a carafe full of coffee, because legit, I will just drink all of that coffee and then it's not good for me. So I actually did have an amazing coffee pot for a good period of my life, and I think I actually bought a couple of them. The coffee pot that I had was called Technivorm. It's still being sold, and it's considered to many coffee connoisseurs as kind of like the gold standard of coffee pots. I believe that it was built by a Nordic company, I think. So it's either Norway or Finland or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, it's considered the top of the line, and it's a good, I mean, when I first bought my first one, I think it was a good $350. I got it from, what's that cooking store? I was about to say Smith and Hawken. No, that's the garden store. I don't think they have Smith and Hawken anymore. What's the fancy kitchen store that's like an S? That's something. Oh my gosh, I can't remember. Give it to me in the comments, but I'm pretty sure I'm just like drawing a blank. There still exist in like bougie malls and stuff, right? So anyway, I bought it there. I bought one of them there. I think I bought another one either on Amazon or from the company itself, because it was one of those coffee pots that just did not provide discounts at all. So, you know, you might as well just buy it from the company in that regard. So yeah, I bought Technivorm. There's a couple different models that you can choose from. And actually in the last few years, they have made them a lot fancier. So here is what the original Technivorm looks like. It's it's a little clunky looking, and frankly, it looks a little like a science experiment. Like the carafe is this conical shape that kind of like looks a little like a huge chemistry beaker or something. And then it's got this goofy arm that just kind of goes across. It's definitely, I don't think it's gonna win any prizes for like presentation and aesthetics. It's not smooth looking, it's not sleek looking, but it was considered like the very best, and I think it still is the very best coffee pot that you can get if you just want a traditional percolator kind of coffee. And I don't know all the reasons why it's like fantastic. Because to some extent, like a percolator coffee seems like a fairly straightforward process, but apparently not. Starbucks had a collaboration with them at some point. So Starbucks actually has had a weird relationship with coffee pots, because they have tried and failed to market their own coffee pot for a very long time. And it always fails, and I don't know why. So after one of those big failures, I think they also had a Starbucks, what was it? Was it Virtue? There was several different proprietary coffee pots they tried. None of them worked. After one major fail, they finally just did a collaboration with Technivorm, because they knew that Technivorm was considered the gold standard of coffee pots. So I had the good pleasure, I was very lucky to be able to go to the Starbucks Reserve location, which is one of their big like roasteries, and it's multi-level. There are only a few of them in the world. There's one in Seattle. That's the first one that I went to. And then I was living in Chicago when they put the big one in Chicago on the Magnificent the mile, whatever that mile thing is. Wow, I just don't think I've had enough coffee today. At any rate, yes, I was there when that went up, which I think is the biggest one in the world. So if you go to these coffee roasteries, they do sell the Technivorm. And I noticed there for the first time that they were selling some Technivorms that were like limited edition Starbucks collabs with Technivorm, and they were different colors, which was like, whoa, mind bending, because Technivorm just very, like in a very kind of purist way. Like they didn't care what their coffee pot looked like, and they weren't making any efforts to like make it cool or whatever else. So to make them like colors, that was just like incredible. But I think since then they do sell them now with multiple different colors. So check that out if you're interested. They're still expensive, but they are considered the best if you want the best percolator ever, period. And I obviously there will people who will say otherwise, and there are a lot of other beautiful percolators and coffee machines that you can get that are probably quite excellent as well. I know, for instance, on the budget side of things, that Cuisinart has made a really good coffee pot for a while. I don't know that it's brilliant, but it's been very good. They also have like a grind and brew. So there is like a grinder in the coffee pot itself. I had a couple of those actually, and I thought that they were fine with the grind. And then it would go immediately to the cup of coffee. So you just had to pour the beans into it, and then, you know, they are a little bit tricky to like clean out and all kinds of stuff like that. But, you know, I know that they did a really brisk business in those grind and brew coffee pots for a long time. I haven't seen them as much anymore. And it could be that now the coffee pots that they're selling are kind of like our crock pots. Like they can do like 17 different things. So forget just grinding. I mean, like now it has an espresso thingy and a milk frother and like this, that, and the other thing, you know? And it's harder to run across a coffee machine that just like does a percolator coffee and that's it. That would just be so like 20 years ago. So now you've got a lot of other things to choose from. I'm not a huge latte person, so I will never be tempted to get one with an espresso attachment on it. I just never will. I'm only interested in black coffee, like really, really good black coffee. I generally don't put cream in my coffee either. I don't adulterate it unless it's for booze or liqueur, which we will talk about in a couple days. So yeah, I had that Technivorm for a long time, and I got a second one too. I can't remember why. It may have been that like I lost the carafe in a move, and then I was gonna buy a new carafe, but then it was a good sale, and I'm like, oh, I'll just get another one or something like that. I don't know. And then I think I've mentioned this before, but I gave it to a boyfriend who really, really liked coffee a lot. And it was about the time that I decided I wanted to switch to a single serve, like a Keurig. He was living with a couple of guys, so he had a much larger like group of coffee drinkers. So I very sweetly gave him my Technivorm. I let him borrow it, and then we had a nasty breakup, and he never gave it back to me. He is out in the wild somewhere with my Technivorm, which I hope he didn't get rid of because it's a really good machine and it was a lot of money. But frankly, it was just one of those breakups where it was like a good riddance. I never want to see you again, not even to ask back for my Technivorm coffee maker, which I don't even use anymore. God bless. Like, you just write it off. It's a loss. It's a loss, you know? I generally I have really good relationships with my exes, like really, really good. Cause I'm a cool girl, you know? Like, I just am. Yeah. I have great relationships. He is the only one that, he still makes me furious just thinking and talking about him. I had a girlfriend at the time, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 months after we broke up, 5 months, 6 months. I remember her saying to me at a certain point, Sarita, I feel like you're getting angrier and angrier as you go along rather than less so. And I just find that really weird because I really think that like time should be healing things, but it was true. Like at the beginning, I was just so emotionally relieved to be done with him. And then like the anger came later where it was like, how did I waste that time of my life? And it wasn't even like years. It was just a matter of months, maybe a year, but I still feel like it's a lost year to me. Anyway, close parentheses. He took the Technivorm, and I haven't had a Technivorm since then. That was probably about 5 years ago, something like that. And like I said, I took that opportunity at that moment to switch over to Keurig. And I haven't gone back. I've just had a Keurig since then. Now, this was well before like Nespresso. If Nespresso was coming out at that time, it was like literally just coming out and was not as ubiquitous as it now is. So basically, if you wanted a single serve coffee, like Keurig was basically it. You could get some other proprietary models, like I think Bun and Mr. Coffee might have had one that could also do coffee pods. But then Keurig has had some like weird like Apple moments where they like made their pods to not work in other coffee machines. I think there were lawsuits, like it was kind of crazy. Yeah, like their pods wouldn't work. And then also if you used a generic pod in the Keurig, it wouldn't work either. You know what I mean? Which was just, it was not a good PR decision, I don't think. But I never think those decisions are wise. So anyway, yeah. I just went ahead and got a Keurig, and I think I've had 2 or 3 or 4 different Keurig models over the years. I know I had a little cute one, like one of the really cute, I mean, it's probably discontinued now, but it was like the cutest one with the cutest colors, and it was like whatever else. I had at least 2 of the, what I call the most basic model for Keurig, and I don't know what the number is. I'll post it right here. It looks like this, and they are so basic, and they are so fundamental, and they're such a good like product that frankly, they've been sold for decades now. This is a very bare bones model that is still being sold on the Keurig website and in stores. And usually they charge a pretty good price for it. I mean, you can buy cheaper Keurigs now that are like far more bare bones. This is kind of their larger footprint, original OG model, as it were, at least the one that they developed that has stood the test of time, essentially. It doesn't have a whole lot of bells and whistles. It doesn't have electronic or graphic screens. I mean, it just is like as basic a Keurig as you can get, but with a fairly healthy water tank on the back of it. And I have to say that the quality of coffee from those machines, and I had a black one once, I had a red one once, I might have even had a white one, I don't know. And that's the other thing about these Keurigs is you can't be shy, I mean, or you have to brace yourself. You will probably have to replace them at some point. These are not necessarily machines that are going to last you 10, 15 years. If they do, you're lucky. For the most part, they're not. And it depends upon the model too, in terms of how flimsy it is, how reliable, et cetera, et cetera. Keurig is putting out a ton of models right now that to me look like they're meant to last about 6 months or 8 months. Maybe in a college person's dorm for like the academic season. I mean, those kinds of, if you're serious about your coffee, I wouldn't even bother with those. So Keurig does have some very, very cheap models that I think are just probably not a good investment, even at a very low price point. But then they have some like ones like this, the basic one that just really is about as bare bones electronically as it can be. And because of that, really has a good chance of lasting pretty long and doing a really good job for you. It was my second favorite in terms of the quality of Keurig coffee that I was getting, and it may get up to a higher temperature. I don't know what it is about this particular model, but it does very well, and it's usually very well reviewed. There are a lot of people that are like, yes, you can get the top of the line Keurig model, and it should be a really good thing for you, but it's also probably buggy because it has a computer screen and it's got a million other things that can go wrong. You guys know how that is. The washing machines and dryers of now like have a million different ways for them to break, whereas before when they like were very, very basic models, like you could have them forever and ever and ever. There was very little that would actually break on them. So a lot of our consumer products across the board have gotten more flashy and definitely can do more things, but they're also more disposable. So in the Keurig line, that basic model is definitely the one that you want to gravitate toward. If you don't need a lot of bells and whistles, if you don't need a computer screen, etc., you just want a really good, decent cup of coffee and don't mind a larger footprint, then that is definitely the model to go with. I have now discovered one that performs even better for Keurig, and that is the commercial K150 or K155. This model is actually built for businesses, especially for small businesses. It actually has a hookup, a water hookup in the back. I don't use it, and you don't have to use it, but there's a water hookup if you had those water hookups available in your office, and then you wouldn't even have to like refill it with water. And it's not a very attractive model. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's meant to live in a business. I actually made a small video of the coffee pot that is sitting in my kitchen right now, which is a K150 or a K155. I'm not really sure. So I'm gonna send you right now to that little video so that you can see what it looks like, what the size is, and how quickly and easily it takes to brew a cup of coffee with it. Okay, so here we are. This is my commercial Keurig, and I know it's a little messy here in my kitchen, so don't mind that. So this is a K150, I think. It might be K155. They may have come out with a new model. As you can tell, and here's my hand, this is an enormous footprint, like enormous. I have a very, very sizable kitchen, so I am able to make it work here in my kitchen, but it's not a particularly attractive or stylish kind of Keurig. And it's made for a commercial setting, and it's very, very large. So even the height of it is extraordinarily large. As it turns out, I have enormously tall ceilings in my kitchen, and so my actual cabinets here are higher than most cabinets actually are. So they do accommodate the height of this, but I would say that this is probably almost 2 feet. It's about like, I think it's 1.5 feet maybe tall. So this is an enormous Keurig, but I really, really, really love it. It gets enormously hot, and the water tank here, I'm not going to take it off, but it's enormous. I can't remember exactly how many ounces of water it takes, but like it's a ton, and it does have the hookups in the back to do the water pipes themselves if you want to like put the, you know, hot water. I don't know if that's like a home feature that's useful to anyone anyway. So I'm just going to show you how quick this is. So this is an old one that I had this morning. Actually, I'm putting in one that I don't like because I'm not going to drink it. I used to like really love this creme brulee from Starbucks, and now I really don't. So I'm gonna do that. So yeah, just like any regular Keurig, you bring that down, you put your lovely cup here, and then this automatically tells you, hey, what do you want? I usually do 8 ounces. I hit brew, and then it gives you this lovely, lovely little video of coffee beans. And there they are. Look at that. Preparing, please wait. Brewing. It is in fact brewing. It's not like the quietest thing, but you know, it's not like super loud either. So there you go. But look at that steam off there. I mean, this coffee pot gets enormously hot. Enormously. And that's exactly what you want for a really, really good cup of coffee. Yeah, look at that. There you go. Enjoy. Yeah, I will. And then I think it's ready, and it just like heats up for the next one. But as you can tell, I mean, that's about as quick as you can get it, I would imagine. And yeah, there you go. I mean, it's ready to go for the next one. You can put another K-Pod in like right now. So yeah, I really highly recommend this model. Like I said, it's not very attractive, but man, it'll last for a very long time. And the quality is the best that I've ever had from a Keurig, period. So yeah. Okay, so we're back. So as you can see, really quick, really easy. I'm still nursing my coffee here, even though I hate it. It's just so sweet. Ugh. And kind of a little bit like brassy and acidic and caramel. And I don't know what I was thinking when I decided I liked that and stocked up on like 5 boxes of it. Ridiculous. At any rate, I love this coffee maker. I do. Now, I was thinking about replacing it because the tank on the side of it, I'm not very good with like cleaning it out and with descaling. I'm still scared of descaling, and I don't know why. I'm one of those people that would be like, I'll just buy another Keurig. I can't deal with the maintenance. I wish wish that I lived with somebody who was like a maintenance person, you know? Like, do you know how many things I'm just like, throw it out, just buy another one. Just buy another one. Like, I can't even begin to like think about what it means to repair that. And it's probably fairly simple, but I'm just a throwaway and buy another one kind of girl. So I mentioned this like a week or two ago. I was thinking about replacing this with a new Keurig because the tank has started to develop some mold around the top. I know it's gross. This is actually one of the few models where they don't give you a charcoal filter inside the tank. Most Keurig models come with this proprietary charcoal filter that purifies your water and helps it keep for longer. Don't get me wrong, I've had this coffee pot, this big commercial one for probably about 3 years, maybe more, and I don't think I've washed it once. Well, okay, maybe once. I think I did wash it once. But like it needs to be washed on a routine basis and I didn't. And it's not easy to get replacement parts. So I was thinking about a week ago about replacing the entire coffee pot and maybe going into one of the cool new ones. And I told you about this cool new one. This cool new one has more nozzles, you know, those pieces that come down into the pod. They have a new coffee Keurig model now that has 5 of these octopus-like things that come into the coffee and are able to give like a deeper and more robust brew because of all the water shooting down into the pod or whatever else. And spoiler alert, I went ahead and bought one of those and I'll talk about it here in a second. But since then, and I've had this new one in my work office, I have decided that I really just want to keep my commercial one because the one in the office is fine, but it's not as good as the commercial one. I mean, I really, 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 really vouch for this commercial one. If you have the space in your kitchen and you don't mind an ugly ass coffee machine, it is far and away the Keurig that has the hottest temperature on it, and the cup of coffee that you get is the most quality. It's the most rich, and it's the most deep brew of like anything that even that basic model. The basic model comes in second for me. It really does. The cups of coffee from that coffee pot are in fact better than usually the more gimmicky ones, but this one bests it. It really does. And I think it's the temperature that it can get to, as opposed to most of the other Keurigs don't get up to that high of a temperature. So there's that. It's just a very durable machine. So I found actually on the Keurig business website that I could get a replacement water tank for $40. So that's what I'm doing. I mean, like the coffee pot is that good and there's nothing wrong with it. So I'm just gonna replace the water tank and descale it, and I'm sure it'll go and go and go. And that's one of the things about like a business model. It's built to like withstand a lot of wear and tear and a lot of people getting coffee every single day. And so it's meant to go the distance for you. This is one of the only Keurig models that you probably could get 10 or 15 years out of, no question. And I'm kind of hoping to do that. So I'm just gonna replace the water tank and keep this one. I'll probably keep the one in the office. So the new one is called a Keurig Supreme, and the Supreme has the 5 tentacles. Now, the Supreme, it comes in a couple different models, one of which, they both have little screen, no, do they? No, a couple of them don't have screens at all. They just have the buttons all around. I kind of recommend that to you because I do think that like as cool and fancy as the screens are, like especially if you have to do a lot of screen things, as you saw with the K150, it does have a screen, but technically you're just like using it for a very limited thing. It's not like a whole lot of stuff. There aren't a whole lot of settings on the machine, for instance, and there's like a really nice brew button that's like a physical button. So I would say generally speaking, don't go with the screen and don't pay extra for it. But there are fancy Supreme models that like you can hook up to your iPhone and like brew them from a distance and like all kinds of goofy things like that. To me, that looks like a lot of drama. It looks like, oh, it's not connecting to my water pot. Oh, like, is it like the iPhone? Did they have a new iOS system? Like, it sounds like just coffee drama to me, and I don't need drama when I need coffee, if you know what I mean. So I wouldn't get that model and I wouldn't pay extra for it, but there are many different like add-ons that you can add on to these Supremes. There is a basic value option, and then there are more than that. The basic Supreme model, though, is probably going to set you back a good 115, 120, maybe 130. Costco is selling them for 130, I think, something like that. And of course, knowing Costco, I think you probably get like, you know, a couple boxes of coffee pods and all kinds of other things like that, you know. Sam's Club is selling it as well, and it's the more budget version of it. And just starting like a few days ago, have $50 off of it. So I went to Sam's Club the other day and I got one for like $89, which is a fantastic deal because right now that Supreme model is considered one of the best for people who like a specific quality of coffee. I've used it a few times in my office. I will keep it, but I don't think that it's remarkably different than any of the other like Keurigs that I've tried over the years, and is not as good as the commercial one in terms of the quality of coffee, the heat of your coffee, etc., etc. Like I said, totally fine for my work office, really, but I decided that I was gonna buy another one for here in the kitchen, and I just don't like it well enough. I just wanna keep my commercial one. The commercial one will set you back. Right now on the Keurig website, it's $250, but I think they used to sell that model for over $300. So up to almost the $400 range. I think when I bought it, and I bought it used from somebody, used. Like it was used in like new condition or whatever. They had not really used it that much, but still, I bought it used when I think it was at least $350, if not closer to $400. Now the price has come down. So you can get one of these for $250, at least right now on the Keurig website. I think comparable to that on the Amazon website. And obviously, if you get like a used model of Amazon, you might be able to get it for less than that. But honestly, if you want to invest in a good Keurig that is going to go the distance for you, it may not be a flash model, but it is a very reliable one. And in my opinion, the one that gives you the best quality tasting coffee. Caveat being that there is a ceiling for Keurig and for the quality of coffee that you're going to get from Keurig. It's as simple as that. I receive and I defer to people who say, well, you know, a pour over coffee or a French press or even a really excellent percolator like Technivorm is going to make a better cup of coffee. I actually think that is the case. But if you pick the right coffee pods and you pick the right Keurig model, the difference is going to be more marginal than you think. And for me, the convenience factor and the ability to brew one cup at a time and maybe do some fancy dessert coffees whenever I want, that to me completely outweighs the quality that you would get from a traditional percolator that you would have like a carafe or a pot, etc. Also, I'm on the go a lot, and so the Keurig is just really, really great for me. And if I want a good cup of coffee, I'll go to Starbucks, and I go to Starbucks quite a bit. You know what I mean? This is fine for the interim. So let's just talk briefly about the K-Cups that I have found that I really, really like. So, not that Starbucks one. So if you're looking for a very good dark roast coffee, like black, this is a cult favorite and I do recommend it. This is a Dark Magic from Green Mountain. This is a great basic dark coffee. It's one of the darkest ones out there that has a really good taste to it. It is very, very dark, as in you might need to actually brew it in higher ounces. Like if you're used to an 8-ounce coffee, you might do a 10 or a 12 just to kind of thin it out a little bit, especially if you drink it black. It is a very strong black coffee. The only one that I've tried that is stronger than that and also quite good is actually Starbucks French Roast. And they have it in K-Cups. So French Roast has actually been discontinued from Starbucks. I was appalled when they discontinued it from Starbucks. It used to be a brew that you would get quite a bit in the Starbucks stores. They discontinued it from the Starbucks stores, I want to say about 2 years ago, something like that. Because Komodo Dragon is my favorite, but French Roast was like a very close second. But apparently even the Starbucks baristas hated it. They hated brewing it. It smelled bad. They said it smelled like feet. Like, I don't really know. So like, God bless. I flatter myself that I'm quite good at coffee and have quite a good palate. I loved it, but I bowed to the fact that everyone else hated it, including people at Starbucks. So maybe I just wasn't tasting the really off-putting thing. I just thought it was great. It was so deep, dark, velvety black, but it was also smooth at the same time. And I just loved that brew, loved it. I hate Italian roast, for instance, and everyone and their mother seems to love Italian roast. So a lot of these things are not really objective. They're subjective, and they have to do with preferences, right? So anyway, when they discontinued French roast, weirdly, they kept selling it in grocery stores. And I don't know why. It just is so bizarre. Like, the people who are buying it in the grocery stores, I feel like they would be less serious coffee buyers than like the people who are getting it. I don't know. It just seems so odd to me that they continued selling it in the stores. I think they're still selling it, but I know for sure that they're still selling it in places like Costco and Sam's Club. And they're selling it weirdly in the K-cup version. So I have had French roast as K-cups, and actually my stepmother bought it for me once for Christmas because she knows I'm like the only one in the world that likes French roast, apparently. So anyway, the French roast coffee is actually darker than Dark Magic from Green Mountain, if you can believe it. Like, that one you 1000% need to brew like at the highest ounce point that you can. And you guys understand what I mean by that, right? Like, the more ounces that you ask Keurig to pull through the machine, the more diluted your coffee is going to be. So that's kind of a little like DIY way to make your coffee stronger or not so strong. Yeah. So yeah, French roast is not for the faint-hearted, for sure. Even if you're not a super black coffee kind of person, you should always have a really good dark brew in your cabinet, in your drawer, because if you want to mix it with some cream or sugar, if you're a cream and sugar kind of person, you actually should be brewing a darker roast than you would be comfortable drinking on your own. I see a lot of people make that mistake, actually. They match a coffee that they really like with a creamer that they really like, but then they end up with something that's so sweet and that's so diluted, it's just kind of like sugar and cream with a little bit of coffee. Actually, what would be far more delicious is for you to think darker than you would want, and then you pour the cream in, and you've got a robust coffee along with a cream, and it waters everything down and everything tastes amazing, as opposed to diluting essentially and washing the coffee fragrance out. Just like a pro tip there. That's why cold brew, for instance, and iced coffee, but especially cold brew, is like triple brewed, because they pour water and ice into it. And so they're already kind of like, they're what's the right word? They're controlling for the fact that you're gonna be diluting it, yeah? So if you're the kind of person that likes cream and sugar, you should definitely be thinking darker, and you should at least have one coffee pod on hand that you would never drink black, but that you do use for your special creamer or your special liqueur or whatever else it is. I always use this one for all my liqueurs. If I'm gonna be trying my Amarula or whatever else, I always have Dark Magic on hand. Always, always, always. I don't as often drink it by itself unless I'm having something sweet, like a croissant or a donut or something like that. Again, great to have a really good black coffee for that. So I really highly recommend it. After that point, I have to say that my favorite has become this. This is, oh gosh, how do you pronounce this? Keurig? Ugh, I'm sorry, guys. I always hate it when people mispronounce things because they didn't do their research first. It's Hawaiian. It's Hawaiian coffee, and here's the brand right here. And I'm not gonna try to say it because I know Kona and I know how to pronounce some of the Hawaiian Islands, but I'm not sure that I'm gonna pronounce that correctly. These are sold in the supermarket and they're pretty easy to find. They come in like a blue-green box, yeah? And they have various different brews. This is my personal favorite. It is Coconut Caramel Crunch. And I, more often than not, will reach for this for my mornings because it's a little bit of flavor, but it's not uber sweet. And it's kind of a medium roast, but it's a nice roast, you know? So these particular coffee, and here's what it looks like right here. This coffee company does these soft shells here. So it's not as much plastic because this is just kind of like a filter right here. And then the Keurig kind of pokes through right here. And they always have them in like a little bag with a thing that you can reclose. And they do suggest that you keep it in an airtight bag of some kind because of the filter mechanism. You don't want your coffee just like sitting out essentially loose and getting dried out, etc., etc. I love this coffee. Just a little bit of coconut, just a little bit of caramel, and just a really nice coffee. The Hawaiian Islands are known for their coffee. I went there once. I did coffee tasting. It's a fantastic place for coffee. A lot of amazing coffee beans come from the Hawaiian Islands, and this company just kind of like markets to that. And like I said, a fairly easy to find company in the grocery store aisle. They don't always have coconut caramel crunch, but I stock up on it. And you can generally find these at Amazon as well. All right, then I have another dessert coffee, and this is from Gloria Jean's. Gloria Jean's does a really good dessert coffees for the most part. This one is butter toffee, and I like it. It is now a little bit sweet for me, so I generally don't do it unless I'm having like a really sweet tooth moment. But butter toffee is quite good, and generally Gloria Jean's are good across the board. Her hazelnut isn't too bad either. Hazelnut is right here. I love a hazelnut coffee. I am yet to find a really good hazelnut coffee though. This is right now my favorite hazelnut, and I talked to you guys about this. I get this from Marshall's or TJ Maxx. This is Bailey's hazelnut, and I was just at TJ Maxx, and they had stacks of them. I think they're considered seasonal for right now. They do have a regular Bailey's as well. Do I have that? Yes, I do. So here's the regular Irish cream Bailey's. I don't like this quite as well. I just don't. The nuttiness of the hazelnut one just calms that like synthetic liqueur a little bit down and gives this amazing richness to it that I just think is fantastic. So I am a huge fan of the hazelnut one. And if you like hazelnut and if you like Bailey's, I really ought to try that out. It's super inexpensive because they sell, I think, almost exclusively to Marshall's and TJ Maxx. Another one that my sister picked up from Marshall's and TJ Maxx, a no-name brand, is this coffee called Jamaican Me Crazy. And it's like our favorite coffee. It's a little bit, it has like kind of a boozy, like a rum overtone to it, along with some like coconut and caramel, and it's so good. It's so good. It's a little darker too, in fact, than the Hawaiian one, and it's just surprisingly great given that it's a no name and it was probably like $4.99. And I think they do it seasonally in the summer, but we always snap that up when we see it. And that goes to tell you that like Marshall's and TJ Maxx are a great place to look for K-Cups because they're so inexpensive. And like every now and then you'll run across one that's super cheap from a no-name company that just tastes amazing, you know? Like, so just be aware of that. Those are really easy ones to buy. And then if they don't work out, oh my gosh, it was only $5. Like, who cares, right? They often sell the Cinnabon ones at Marshall's and TJ Maxx too. And I do like the Cinnabon one. Every now and then I like a nice cinnamon coffee, and it is a pretty nice cinnamon coffee. I just picked up from a Marshall's though, a Cinnabon with pecan. It's like pecan cinnamon roll, and it was from Cinnabon, and I like that one even better. It has a really nice bassy, rich nuttiness to it, again, that is just so much better than just the cinnamon. So I'm really happy. If I ever see the cinnamon roll pecan one, I will be much more inclined to pick that up than the regular cinnamon one. Another one that's actually really similar to butter toffee here is this one by Caribou that is Caramel Hideaway, and I like Caramel Hideaway a lot. It's a little less sweet than the butter toffee from Gloria Jean's, but I do kind of have to be in a sweet mood for that one as well. We used to have Caribous all over the place in Ohio, and then like 15 or 20 years ago, they just like all disappeared. I think they overextended as a company and then they all went back to like Minnesota or something like that, you know? And now they're slowly creeping back out and weirdly can be found in airports. I don't know. I'm kind of a huge Caribou fan. I like Starbucks coffee better, but nobody makes a better mocha than like Caribou does. No one. And there are just certain cultural things that I liked about Caribou's. So anyway, I would love for Caribou to come back in earnest, and that's a lot coming from like a Starbucks girl. So there you go. Those are right now my favorite K-Cups. I'm always trying different ones, but those are kind of my go-tos and my recommendations. So there you go. If that's helpful at all, if you've got a Keurig, and a lot of people do, think about investing though in that business Keurig, because it's, I think, money well spent. I really do. As long as you don't mind an ugly coffee maker that takes up a lot of space. There you go, my friends. Oh, I wanted to say a little something about Nespresso too. Nespresso has gotten a lot bigger, and one of my offices that I sometimes travel through, they have an Nespresso in their kitchen, and I'm like, yes. When I'm there, I try all the Nespressos. I'm so happy, you know. So Nespresso used to just, when they came out, they market themselves in a very like authentic Italian kind of way, very premium. And initially, it was mostly espresso shots that Nespressos would do. I mean, it was truly espresso. And then they would have like, I felt like it was kind of like the sop to all the rest of us. They're like, or you can have an Americano. And then they would have like this big, ridiculous looking pod that wasn't cute like the little ones. And it would make you like a normal cup of coffee. The rest of the Nespresso pods would just give you like, you know, like a double pool of espresso essentially. Which is how they drink it in like other places. But like we drink a full cup of coffee that's less intense than just an espresso pool, right? So yeah, so they would have like these, a few of them would be the big round pods that would be like legitimate coffee. But now, since they've gotten more popular, they have a lot more options in that respect. And you can get like normal coffee pods from them. They're not just all espresso pods. The coffee from there is quite good. It tends to not be very sugary. Even their limited editions like peppermint or something like that. I mean, they're very austere coffees, no question, which I actually kind of appreciate, but I know a lot of you may like not find that very fun or very nice. You're gonna wanna maybe put cream in a lot of them. For me personally, when you start, if you don't have a taste for that particular kind of coffee, which admittedly is a very high quality, especially for a single serve, you know, household kind of brewer. If you don't have the taste for that kind of coffee, I think it's a waste of your time and a waste of your money, because this is the kind of coffee that's so good. Like it's meant to be drunken is probably the wrong verbal form there. It's supposed to be consumed black. So putting cream and all that stuff in it, like you're kind of ruining the quality of the coffee, if that makes sense. And yeah. So don't spend so much money on an espresso, just don't. The thing about Nespresso too is that they have these proprietary pods. They're very expensive. You can't use other pods with them. So you're pretty much locked in. Even if the machine itself, you can get it for a reasonable price, you're gonna be paying through the nose for the pods, and you're gonna have a fairly limited selection of pods. So if you find one that you really, really like, that may be fine with you, but it's definitely a much less versatile brewing system than Keurig is. And to be honest, my sister had a couple Nespressos and we fought with them. Because, and this goes for all coffee makers, by the way, especially of this like, these new generation single serves. When you have a machine that only has one button, flee from that, run away from that. It seems like it would be simple, but many of these Nespressos are just like one button on top. And they're like, oh, so simple. You only need one button. You never need one button. I don't know why, you just don't. And like, my sister and I would sit there with the manual trying to reset the coffee maker or get the size right or the setting right. And it was like tap 5 times and then 1 long time to like reset your coffee maker, or to change the size, like tap it twice and then 2 long times. And like, you've just felt like you had to type in some sort of Morse code anytime you wanted to do something. And like, you had to have the manual with you at all times. And it's just one of those things where like, you would think one button would be like, oh, it's super easy. It's like the exact opposite. So if there's one general direction that I can give you, is find a machine with multiple buttons, physical buttons. Sometimes the screens can be wonky, and if the touch gets off or whatever else, you could have a very decent coffee maker that you can't use because the freaking computer screen is wacky. So generally speaking, be wary of computer screen technology and be wary of machines that only have one button. Oh my gosh. So that was the other thing. I do think that Nespressos they have considerably improved over the years that they've been out, and they haven't been out that many years. They've considerably improved, and I think have become more and more savvy. So hopefully we are kind of getting to a place where the Nespressos are almost becoming user-friendly. But my sister had one. She had 2 models actually, and we found both to be such a headache that in the end she just went back to Keurig. So that's my experience with the Nespresso. I do think it's better quality than a Keurig, but again, it doesn't come necessarily with the same convenience factor, and certainly not with the amount of versatility or price value. So there's that as well. And that's what I've got for you. I know this video probably went on really long, and many of you guys didn't watch it because you kind of weren't interested and it wasn't about candles. But yeah, those are my 2 cents about coffee at home. I'm not a snob. I understand what good coffee is, but I do think there's like a lot of good benefits to like having a Keurig. It's kind of like being a candle connoisseur and like not turning your nose up at Bath and Body Works, or even, heaven forbid, Aldi or something like that, you know? Like, there are positive reasons to having a Keurig, and frankly, there have been enough for me to have it for multiple years. So yeah, not every Keurig is the same though, so just be aware of that. Thank you so much for joining me, my friends. We will be back at it with a coffee review tomorrow. It will be day 6. And I will have a video on liqueur at some point. And then I will also have a special Starbucks video, maybe on Sunday. Thanks so much. I'll catch you guys in the next one.